So, let's talk about this massive showdown happening right now between the tech giant Meta and its single biggest market, India. And trust me, this is way more than just some business dispute. It's a fundamental clash over privacy, national security, and really who gets to write the rules for our digital lives. What happens here could literally set the precedent for how every democracy on Earth deals with big tech. And if you thought this was just business as usual, think again. In early 2026, the Chief Justice of India's Supreme Court dropped this absolute bombshell of an ultimatum directly on Meta. I mean, it doesn't get much clearer than that. This was a signal that the old Silicon Valley motto of move fast and break things was officially over. And who's caught in the middle of all this? 850 million people. That is a staggering number. That's how many people in India rely on WhatsApp, Facebook, and Instagram every single day. Their digital lives are literally hanging in the balance. So how on earth did we get to this point? Well, to really get it, we're going to break it all down into 6 key pressure points. We'll start with the big picture, the sovereign corporate standoff. Then we'll dive into the privacy ultimatum, the encryption paradox, and a really surprising American wildcard. After that, we'll look at the multi-front war Meta's facing. And finally, we'll tackle the trillion-dollar question, what happens next? Okay, first up, a sovereign corporate standoff. At its very core, this whole conflict is about Meta's global, one-size-fits-all approach, running headfirst into India's demand for, digital sovereignty, the idea that a nation's own laws should apply within its borders. Now, what's so fascinating here is that this is a two-way street. It's not just India laying down the law. Meta has drawn its own line in the sand. They've basically told the courts, if you force us to break our encryption promise, we're out. We will leave India. And at the exact same time, you've got India's highest court saying, if you can't follow our laws, pack your bags and go. It's a high-stakes game of chicken, and the consequences are just immense. All right, let's get into the first major battlefront, the privacy ultimatum. Now, this all kicked off with WhatsApp's 2021 privacy policy update. You might remember it. It essentially forced users to share more of their data with the parent company, Meta. And let's just say India's Supreme Court was not a fan. And the court had this incredible way of putting it. They said the choice offered to users was between a lion and a lamb. Their point was, for hundreds of millions of Indians who rely on WhatsApp for everything, the choice to either accept the new policy or lose access to their digital life, well, that's not a real choice at all, is it? It's the powerful lion telling the helpless lamb what to do, which makes any idea of consent pretty much meaningless. So you can see here, it's like they're living in two different realities. Meta says, hey, users consent to this. They can choose other apps. The court says, nope, that's coercion. Meta says, we're just sharing some metadata for security. The court calls it behavioral exploitation for money. And when Meta claims its policies are transparent, the court sees them as cleverly crafted to hide what's really going on. They aren't just disagreeing, they are speaking completely different languages. Now for what might be the trickiest part of this whole thing, the encryption paradox. This is the technical standoff, the one that poses the most immediate threat of a WhatsApp shutdown in India. And it all boils down to one single word: traceability. The Indian government brought in a rule that requires platforms like WhatsApp to be able to identify the original sender of a specific message if a court orders it. The idea is to fight things like misinformation and crime. But for WhatsApp, this creates a huge problem. So you have WhatsApp arguing that because of their end-to-end encryption, it is technically impossible to trace one message without breaking that encryption for all 500 million of its Indian users. That would basically create a system of mass surveillance. But the Indian government's response is pretty blunt. Privacy isn't absolute, and it's your job as the platform to figure out a technical way to follow our laws. Okay, so just when you think things can't get any more complicated, a bombshell drops. While Meta is in Indian courts arguing that breaking encryption is technically impossible, something happens back home in California that could change everything. And this is where it gets wild. A class action lawsuit filed in the US, citing whistleblowers, makes this absolutely explosive claim that Meta has a secret kleptographic backdoor. This alleged tool would basically allow the company to bypass its own encryption and read your private messages, a complete contradiction of everything they've said publicly. And this, right here, is the trillion-dollar question. If,
And it is a big if, but if these allegations turn out to be true, Meta's entire legal defense in India, the argument they are willing to shut down the country over, could just completely collapse. I mean, how can you argue that traceability is impossible if you secretly hold the key? So it's not just happening in the courtroom. This fight is getting bigger. Meta is now battling a multi-front war because India is rolling out a whole new set of powerful digital laws designed specifically to rein in big tech. Take the new Digital Personal Data Protection Act. It's basically a brand new rule book. No more of that bundled consent where you agree to everything at once. Now, Meta needs separate permission for every single way it wants to use your data. It has to verify parental consent for anyone under 18, which is a massive challenge, and it has to go through mandatory data audits every year, all overseen by an officer based right there in India. And while all this pressure was building from the outside, things started falling apart on the inside. Right when Meta needed its A-team the most, it lost its India country head, its WhatsApp head, and its public policy head. Then its director of legal was laid off. This created a huge leadership vacuum at the absolute worst possible time. So this is the point, right? You've got all these pressures from the courts, from the tech side, from new laws, and they're all converging into one massive trillion-dollar question about Meta's entire future in the country. And you have to remember, this is all happening while Meta is spending an absolutely insane amount of money globally. They're pouring over $100 billion into AI and the metaverse in 2026 alone. Their costs are just soaring, which makes the idea of a major disruption or even an exit from their largest market an almost unthinkable financial hit. So let's just quickly recap this perfect storm of risks. The Supreme Court could basically kill its advertising model. The High Court could force it to break encryption. New laws are piling on massive compliance costs. And on top of all that, there's a new digital competition bill coming that's designed to limit its market power. It is a threat from every single direction. Which brings us right back to the central question for every single one of those 815 million users. This isn't just about a company's bottom line. It's about the platform that has become the digital backbone for an entire nation. Is that backbone about to be snapped by a shutdown, or will it be fundamentally remade by Indian law? The final answer won't just stay in India. It is going to write the playbook for the relationship between technology and sovereignty for the rest of the world.